For quite some time, we've said the Big 12 is wider than it is deep, the meaning that it's not as far from the bottom of the top as it is some other places in college football. That now may be true across the sport, while maybe the Big 12 has elevated the ceiling. Glad to have you with us on the College Game Day podcast. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel with you. We're going to break down the Big 12. How many contenders are there actually for the championship in this conference? How many playoff contenders are there in this conference? What type of surprises we might see? But there are some things that are unsurprising. Before we start this, I want to open up with a little story, if I may. I once knew a man in my younger years who was vexed by what armadillos would do to his yard. So he set about putting out traps to catch these armadillos, and he was fairly successful in doing so. And oftentimes, if he had someone perhaps with whom he had beef or didn't care for, he would relocate said armadillo on their property rather than his own. But many times, the armadillo would just return to the original property. Therefore, there's only one real surefire way to deal with an armadillo. And in that situation, that takes us to Stillwater, Oklahoma State, and Eric Morris, who wants the pleasure of telling us what has happened with the transfer portal at Arizona State and one armadillo that was transferred out permanently from the greater Stillwater area.
We'll let Dan do it. Dan is the lawn guy. Talks a lot about mowing his lawn, takes pride in his lawn. I don't have a lawn. I live in a city, so I just feel like Dan is probably best equipped to handle the quintessential Big 12.
Nothing says Big 12 like this story, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a yard. I don't have an armadillo. I hope. But I think anybody who likes, mowing their lawn, in this case with Eric Morris, his flower bed, he said, I guess the armadillo, I got very little firsthand experience with armadillos, would like to keep it that way. I don't think they're real scary to humans. They're going to run away, but they apparently dig little trenches, very much like the gopher in Caddyshack, if you can recall that, and just tear up everything. And so, look, you're Eric Morris. You get the job at Oklahoma State. You move into Stillwater. You want to be a good new neighbor. You want to impress the neighbors with your nice yard. Keep up the yard. I'm sure it's quite a neighborhood that he's in. And here's this pesky armadillo, apparently, quote, crushing my yard, my flower beds, digging everything up. So, he wasn't too happy about that. And as he said, he doesn't sleep well. I mean, there's a lot of work to do with the Cowboys. Pokes need work. My brain's going constantly, so I don't sleep very well. I had a couple armadillo problems tearing up my lawn. Finally, a couple days ago, I just popped up at 2:30 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, and I thought, it was a great opportunity for me to go outside, and luckily I found him. He not so good for the armadillo. Eric Morris apparently blasted the armadillo with a gun. We don't know what kind. I don't believe that was in the story here. I'm reading from ESPN.com. So 2:30 in the morning, he blasts an armadillo in his yard. He's hunting armadillos. Right? What are you doing, Coach Prime, at 2:30? Huh? What are you doing, Joey McGuire? What's happening? Are you guys working? No, he's out here killing. They're killing armadillos in Oklahoma State. That's how focused they are on getting this problem solved before the season. Now he's free focused. So then he has to send a text to his neighbors. I guess it's like next door. Seen that thing next door? There's wild crap on that.
Yeah.
2:30 in the morning, I apologize for the gunshot. I'm in the country, so it was legal, but I did get rid of him. Good job, Eric Morris.
Got a baby Eric. All right.
He's a play caller. He dialed it up.
Probably
decisive.
That's dark. Yeah. Good shot in the dark.
Yeah.
I don't know. How hard is it to shoot an armadillo? Can you walk right up on him?
Hey, let me tell you something. from the man I used to know when I was younger. I don't want to give away any secrets. It's not easy because they refer to armadillos as possum on the half shell. So the shell, if you hit the shell, I mean, this gentleman once trapped one and decided that relocation was not going to be the answer this time. And he basically had to empty, the gun into there to rid himself of said armadillo. And it was all legal where you live. Nobody, and it's also statute of limitations. This has been like a really, really long time ago. But so no investigations need to be opened. And
I don't think there'll be a cold case off our game day episode.
You never know. You never know.
The quote, no investigations need to be opened is exactly what a guilty person says, Rece.
Well, it wasn't me. I didn't shoot the armadillo. But to show you how things are different, sometimes in different parts of the country, my dad had a problem with chipmunks, and he didn't necessarily live in the country. And he had a little single shot 22, and he'd pop them right out the window sometimes to get rid of them. Am I going to have PETA calling after this?
Listen, so you gotta kind of pinpoint the armadillo shot, not on the shell.
If you hit the shell, you're going to have some ricochet issues.
Well, not if you're Eric Morris. This is Pistol Pete.
That's right. Pete. Pistols firing. That's what they say on a touchdown. I wonder if when he hit the armadillo, if he it said pistols firing, Oklahoma State.
This is I need him to come to Eugene next year, Rece. Take care of our vermin problem with the duck.
Oh, is that? Well, they play, right? Don't they? I think they play.
They do play. Yeah. Oh, wow. Maybe we could put a hit in. That would be a college football thriller.
Now, Pete. Now that might merit an investigation. If you are calling,
that's fine.
If you're calling,
that's deserved
for the Elmer Fudd duck season to open in Stillwater. I'm not sure that's where we need to go here.
Yeah, Pete, I'm on your side here in this Duck Pete feud, but Oregon Duck is rude to Pete. I don't like him, but it's also like a junior sociology major from like Portland.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I certainly don't want
not an armadillo, right?
The kid from Bend. Yeah, we don't want to get rid of him. Yeah.
Anyway, I love it out there on the South Plains, man. Like the next door Huntington, the next door a text message thing or whatever is sorry I killed an armadillo. That noise you heard wasn't me bringing my garbage cans out.
I want to see the rest of that text thread. Do you think they thumbs up it? Do you think they exclamation pointed it? Do you think they were like, great job, like go coach?
Figured. I don't like that. Yeah, you want to? I don't know. Just
also
Big 12's got it all.
Also in Big 12 country, Digger Phelps and I were working a basketball studio wrap, sitting in the studio one night, and so Digger goes, "Let's call Bob Knight." So Bob was coaching at Texas Tech, so he calls him up and talking about whatever. And occasionally you hear, bam! Wondered what was that? A little bit later on, you hear, bam! Finally, Coach, what are you doing? We're riding around shooting jackrabbits.
There you go.
It was, we got a lot of hunting stories in the Big 12 history.
Yes.
But everybody's hunting Texas Tech now, right?
Oh.
Probably so.
Look at this.
That's why Rece makes the big bucks, Dan. Transitions like that.
What a transition.
Smooth jazz.
Wow.
How many, I said right off the top that we had made this statement for quite some time, and the Big 12 took umbrage at this, actually. Many in the Big 12 did, that it was wider than it was deep. It didn't mean the teams weren't good. It meant there wasn't a lot of difference. I think there might be a lot of difference now. And if there is a lot of difference between Texas Tech, BYU, perhaps, maybe Utah, and a couple others that might join them this year. Dan, you think that's good for the league? If there is an established hierarchy, at least for the rest of Shooter, no pun intended, to aim at. Sorry, Armadillo fans, to aim at.
Yeah. So I think there's undoubtedly what Texas Tech has done. You don't want Texas Tech just being in another stratosphere and they're just going to go undefeated in the season every year and things like that. But it does raise the bar, and everyone's got to chase them. I think when the Big 12 was formed, this iteration of the Big 12, there was a bit of like, hey, we don't know who's going to win every year. There's all these good programs. And historically, we've seen, a bunch of teams get really good. UCF, Cincinnati, right? West Virginia, all the Texas schools can do like different times. And so maybe it's a different school every year. Texas Tech has separated themselves. They're spending big money. What Texas Tech has done though is give them a bell cow of a thing, so a target for everyone to go after, and everyone else in the country to go, oh, that's Texas Tech's league. They're spending a lot of money. They're beating people in recruiting. They are very loud. They have got, they become sort of the villain of the league, and in ways villain of the country after the Brendan Sorsby bit. You have Cody Campbell, their big booster, is not afraid to be public about what he thinks Texas Tech should be or what college football should be at all. When they were going through all of these congressional efforts, he's front and center. So I find it funny. Texas Tech, I think I've said this before, is always this fun program. Like Mike Leach, they got this cool mascot on a horse. They throw tortillas, or they used to. So somehow that got banned. I mean, you're shooting armadillos in Stillwater, and we can't even throw a tortilla. I don't know. Seems a little crazy. But they're the villain is kind of funny to me. It's never been really a villainous type place, or one that had so much success everyone hate. But I think when you've got somebody for everyone to point to, a game when they're coming to town, you circle it on the schedule, you're going to sell some more tickets. I think overall that is really good for the Big 12.
Well, they couldn't be a villain all those years because they couldn't stop anyone, Dan, right? And I think the biggest difference with Texas Tech this year, compared to other iterations and even compared to last year's, I think their defense is going to be their identity. Now, it was probably going to be Brendan Sorsby, right? And that is there. Now they're working Will Hammond back. A lot of optimism that he can start the season from Joey McGuire. But they won last year because they had one of the best defensive lines in the country, certainly the best in the Big 12. This year, they have A.J. Holmes back on the D-line. He's obviously preseason defensive player of the year. They bring in Adam Trick on the defensive line, who was the best player in the MAC last year. Every Big Ten school tried to get him. They got Ben Roberts at linebacker. They take Austin Romaine from Kansas State, highly productive guy there. And they got Bryce Pollock. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they have 5 first-team preseason players on defense. They also have the preseason kicker in the Big 12. And it looked like we're just a Big 12 to Big 12 conversation. Texas Tech has the best personnel. It's not close. They have the biggest purse strings. We can talk about challengers to them later, but they have certainly reloaded on every level. They are very confident that once Will Hammond finds his sea legs, that they're going to push forward and keep going. But it really starts there in the trenches. They were obviously dominant there last year. They've had good D linemen there under Joey McGuire, but this collection again is going to be what separates them.
And while Will Hammond, who, when healthy, is a dual threat guy, finds his way, makes sure he's completely healthy coming off the knee injury, they've got a couple running backs returning, Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams. And don't forget Quentin Joyner, the former USC running back, who was going to play a big role for them a year ago before he got hurt. So they've got some depth at running back. They went through the portal to shore up some of their spots on the offensive line. They've got a tremendous tight end in Terrence Carter Jr. So they've got more weapons than anybody else. They are the clear favorite. Doesn't mean they'll win it. As you look at their schedule, even though I think they will, they've got a game early on that I think might set the tone for the entire conference and how deep it is, how many challengers. They have a Friday night game on September 18th in Lubbock against Houston. When I was out there visiting with Joey McGuire, he was bemoaning the fact that, not that he might have played on Friday night, but he felt like that could be a potential game day opportunity. And he said, "What else is that weekend?" And I said, well, Lane Kiffin's going back to Oxford. He goes, "Oh, well, okay, never mind that." But it's still going to be a pretty sizable game there. They have Arizona State coming to their place. They've got TCU coming to their place. The schedule is
Arizona,
also
Rece. Don't forget Arizona.
Favorable. Arizona also coming to Lubbock. And, so their road trips are in conference are Colorado, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, who Pete is going to pick to win the national championship, and Baylor, because Pete has himself a man crush on the armadillo killing Cowboys and their quarterback. We'll get to that soon. How big
It's that easy to see, isn't it, Rece? You can spot my man crush without me having to admit it, huh?
Well, we have to have one every year.
Does Dan didn't have one last year. Dan, do you feel comfortable getting a man crush for the season? Just a player you like or a coach you like or a bass guy? It could be anything. Do you feel comfortable, Dan?
Yeah, let me see what happens. If I need one.
Yeah. These things develop, don't they,
Dan?
Dan?
Armadillo and Pete swoons. I mean, that's the way to his heart.
Yeah. I like Drew Mestamaker more than Eric Morrison.
He does. It
could be Pop Watson at UMass, Dan. UMass brought in a real quarterback, man.
Yeah,
he can deal. Springfield Central's finest. He can deal.
Get one this year. Sacred Heart. Go.
We're going to do a pod where we make college football playoff predictions. Texas Tech, the established favorite in the Big 12. How many playoff caliber teams do you think there are in the Big 12?
2. And I won't spoiler alert the prediction podcast, but I am very bullish to the point where I could include 2 Big 12 teams in.
Ooh,
I am
me
on the BYU bandwagon in a significant way. And it's again rooted in defense, and there's a little bit of a schedule element to BYU that's pretty fascinating too, because they do not play Texas Tech this year. And they do have a very sexy home game with Notre Dame, which Rece, would it surprise you if we ended up there for game day on October 17th? I haven't looked at that weekend yet.
I would say the chances of us being in Provo for Notre Dame BYU are not nil, but they are certainly not the leader in the clubhouse right now. October 17th. There's a little game in Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah.
With the Buckeyes coming in.
Yeah.
And that's also the other one. There's Florida, Texas, Florida State, Miami, Alabama, Tennessee. I mean, those are the top 2 as we look at it here in late August. But
funny things happen in this college football race.
I know things could change. I just want to say, let's acknowledge before the Ohio State and Indiana folks start flooding the inbox and the comments that October 17th is also Ohio State and Indiana, probably the leader at the moment.
I do have like a bit of good BYU intel that I know we have a lot of listeners out there that they're like, I've heard the buzz of camp there is a freshman receiver named Legend Glasker, 3-star, not a big recruit. He has absolutely ripped through spring and ripped through their camp. I can't promise he's going to start, but I was told he's not only going to be one of the best freshmen in the Big 12, but he's just going to be one of the best receivers in the Big 12. He could be like a first-team all-league guy. Like, he has been the absolute buzz of camp there. They feel unbelievably good about him. LJ Martin is obviously preseason player of the year, the tailback in the Big 12 on offense. Bear is Bear, as we know. And then on defense, they bring in Kade Olave. He's the only transfer who's going to start on defense. He was first team all ACC at Cal. I mean, an excellent, excellent player to the core of a team, I believe 8 players back from a defense that was in the top 20 in scoring defense last year. So that's the guts of a pretty good team right there. You address your weaknesses specifically. You're going to be good on the lines, and you bring in a playmaker on offense and a playmaker on defense that are game changers. So, a lot can change. It's the Big 12. Wacky things happen. But if it ends up being BYU, Texas Tech again in that, Big 12 title game, sign me up. It could be a lot of, that could be a lot of fun. The only team on BYU's schedule with a number next to it right now, and these things certainly change, are Notre Dame at home and then Utah on the road. And quite frankly, if you're going to win the Big 12, you got to go play Utah. And there's a lot of unknowns there with Morgan Scalley taking over and, some high-end talent leaving. But Utah is a high-floor program, and I believe it's going to maintain a high floor. And any trip to Rice-Eccles is not easy. That game is an awesome rivalry. But, but I am a believer in BYU.
Well, I like how they have their chances. I would, if we're in contenders that maybe can knock Texas Tech off, if we've moved into that part. I will go back to that Houston game that Rece mentioned on Friday, September 18th, and it's going to be a Friday night. And we talked about this with the ACC. Some of these big games getting moved to Friday night and seizing that bit, and so like that's awesome for college football fans. I know not everyone loves Friday night games. There's plenty of reasons for that. Can be inconvenient for the fans. You got the high school football and all that. But if you're just a guy sitting at home on the weekend, to be able to say, "Hey, Friday night I'm going to watch this game, and then Saturday is going to be the put on your Kevlar, uh, Lane Kiffin returns to Oxford." That's not bad. That's not bad. And I am a big Willie Fritz fan. He's got Connor Wegman. They're underrated. They're on their way up. Experienced offensive line. And this is a real opportunity for Houston to make a statement both in the league and obviously nationally because of who they're getting. So big showcase early game for the Big 12. And that's Texas Tech doesn't have a ton of gauntlet to face, but Houston on that Friday night, a lot of crazy things happen on Friday night. So I really like that. I like Houston as a potential contender here.
I agree with you, Dan. I mean, they won 10 games last year. Now, you can talk about, the schedule, their 3 losses, Texas Tech, TCU, and then they, stubbed their toe against West Virginia. This is an extraordinarily well-coached team by a veteran guy who's been around and has won everywhere he's been. He understands, how to make the most out of whatever he has. And with Wigman there, who has been a little bit underrated, they're getting the well-traveled Mekhi Hughes back, who was at Oregon, didn't work out there previously at Tulane. There are a couple other guys who coming in the portal, sort of reuniting with that Willie Fritz staff. They understand what he wants, offensive linemen that have played for him in the past. They got an outstanding corner out of the portal from Stephen F. Austin. So they've done a really good money ball approach, bounce back approach to finding guys, and it perfectly fits the way Willie Fritz coaches. And now, are they as loaded as Tech and BYU? No, but I mean, you're coming off a 10-win season. You got some continuity on the staff. You got a veteran quarterback who's played a lot. I mean, I think this is a pretty dangerous team, Pete.
I would agree. Last pod, Rece, if you recall, Dan was touting his UMass economics acumen. Do you remember that?
I do recall.
Yeah. I don't know if they've awarded him the Nobel Prize for collegiate economics yet. He might have awarded it to himself. I looked it up, the Spriggus Rispbank Prize in Economic Sciences. Dan deserves that for accurately projecting what NIL could do to the sport. And one of the fascinating ripples from Dan's Nobel Prize theory of college economics, where money would spread, henceforth talent would spread, comes in the quarterback room at Houston. Keyshawn Henderson was, by some services, the number 1 ranked quarterback in college football last year. He is from the city of Houston, just like Ed Oliver is from the city of Houston. Keyshawn Henderson could have gone anywhere, had all the offers, all the logos. He decided to stay home. He will back up Connor Wegman this year. Connor Wegman, very solid Big 12 quarterback. Keyshawn Henderson, pretty intriguing guy with a very different skill set. Don't be surprised if he gets worked into some things situationally. He's going to be the quarterback of the future for the Cougs. Simply put, Houston prioritized paying one of its local guys. He'll get snaps right away. I'm not saying he's going to take over anything for Wegman. Wegman's an established guy who won double-digit games last year. But I do think that's an interesting wrinkle, a little bit like Mississippi State used Kamario Taylor last year. Mm-hmm. Tim Tebow at Florida as an example. Hey, 3rd and 2 from the goal line, Connor Wegman's probably not going to dive over the pile and get you in, right? Maybe Keyshawn Henderson comes in. It takes a Houston team that's intriguing and talented and has Willie Fritz, who's one of the best college football coaches in all the years I've ever covered this thing. And it gives them an element of dynamism that they haven't had, an element of intrigue. And I think that's the most interesting thing about Houston to me this year. Dan's economic principles headed to the Cougs.
Yeah, these are well established economic principles, but I'm glad they could become mine. It's just the fact that nobody else paid any attention or spoke to any economists. I would like to say two things about this, my economics award, which I will accept, Pete, whatever the hell it is. One,
it's a slice of Antonio's pizza from.
I'll take
Amherst.
that. That's better than something.
We'll give you a whole pie.
I don't have a shelf. I don't know. Anyway, I got roasted for saying that the players were going to. I mean, it was like so controversial. Like people would get so mad when I'd say it. If no, Alabama's going to get everyone. I'm like, that's not how it works.
It's not how money works.
Is not the only place with money. They have old money. They have waterfall. They used to have a waterfall, right? They have a passive dollar to build facilities. An active dollar changes everything. And so Houston can sit there and say, we're going to overpay for this one recruit. And Alabama can't match all 25 guys in their recruiting thing, so they don't get them all. Georgia's not going to get everyone. It was very, very simple. I got killed for that. Everybody hated me. I was all wrong until I was absolutely 100% right. Second, you mentioned last time I deserved the award, and I got crushed in all the comment sections, and people texted me, yes, you may deserve an economics award, but you mispronounce every third word. So,
including Dabo,
everything. So I'm not. I hear you. I'm not. I got lucky on that one, but I can't speak. And since I'm a podcaster, that's probably more important than my understanding of economics.
I find you both eloquent and articulate, for the record, and economically viable.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't take a lot of economics classes at Syracuse. I don't know if they offer them.
So. Nobody in college athletics did. They all. I don't know what sports management made. I don't know what these people were doing.
Didn't you have to take some? I mean, I hear all of this stuff from my friend Sean McDonough, the Harvard of upstate New York, and all of that stuff. And they didn't make you guys take econ or math or anything at all.
I took one stats class. Didn't open the book. It was an open book midterm, and I remember walking into the midterm and I peeled the plastic off the book and like kind of figured it out. I'm not exactly a math brain, but they don't stress math there. They give you a lot of time. Like so, they gave Sean and Mike Tirico and all those guys. They give you a lot of time to focus on covering sports.
Listen to
really good at.
Listen to Pete dropping that and say, "Well, if you're questioning the academic credentials of Syracuse, there's Mike Tirico."
Yeah, he throws himself in with Tirico.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, Pete.
Tirico's on the board, so I'm not throwing any. I'm not throwing. I'm just giving
Mike Tirico, Pete. All three. Let me tell you about his economics reason. Pete knew to tip the bartender at Fagan's enough that he let you drink right to last call.
Well, you win on flip night because they flip a coin on Wednesdays, heads or tails. And if you tip the bartenders enough, you beat the 50% principles. That was my basic economics. Yeah.
That was it. He knew how to work the Fagan's bar staff.
How do you think? What do you have to do in Salt Lake City? Because I think things might be a little bit different. Tipping bar staff. I remember covering the NBA finals in 1997, and I'm not much of a drinker, but I remember going out with Dan Patrick, and we had to join the club.
You had to
in
join
Salt
a club,
Lake City,
yeah.
like cost us $5 or something.
Yeah, you had to join the club, and I was in a few clubs, and I barely was ever in Salt Lake City. I don't know what happened. Those are like Blockbuster lifetime memberships. Where's my club? What happened to the club? We have the club by the Marriott in downtown Salt Lake.
Well, we have sung the praises of BYU. Is Utah under Morgan Scalley now in the post-Kyle Whittingham era, still with Devin Dampier? They didn't lose him to the portal. Wayshawn Parker coming back. And now the new economic reality didn't afford them necessarily the opportunity to keep everybody that they would like to have kept. Most notably John Henry Daly, who went to Michigan after the great season as a pass rusher last year. But it's sort of a new era at Utah, yet there is an element of continuity because of Morgan Scalley's background at Utah. Is Utah a contender or just a threat to upset the apple cart in the Big 12 by pulling off upsets here and having a good season, which I think everybody expects Utah to have a good season. So what I'm asking here, do you view them, Pete, as a contender in the Big 12, or do you view them as a good team who is dangerous and, capable of upsetting BYU when they come to town?
Oh, I think they can contend. Their schedule really sets up, Rece, for them to ramp up into contention in the Big 12. You have Idaho, you have Arkansas at home. Arkansas is the worst power conference team in the country. That's probably like a little bit definitive there, but they're certainly, picked last in the SEC. That is a great SEC team to have at home for a night game in week 2 to kind of give yourself some confidence and play. Utah State at Iowa State, which has 178 new players, the most new players of anyone in the country. Then they have Kansas at home, who's good. They go to Colorado, and then they have Houston at home on October 24th. That's the first ranked team they play. And, by all metrics, there's a very good chance they'll be undefeated going into that game. And then they got BYU, they go to Arizona and TCU at the end of the year. The tests in the league come. But if you're Morgan Scalley, you had to draw up a pathway to start your tenure and find an identity and, move on with a new OC. I really feel like this is that you couldn't have scripted it. You couldn't have scripted it much better. Devin Dampierre's back. And also, there's been some buzz that Bird Ficklin, who really came in and showed some dynamism last year when he played when Dampierre was injured. They could use both those guys at times this year. Bird Ficklin is one of the most dynamic backup quarterbacks in the country. He stayed, and Dampierre is a 5-for-5 guy, so he could have another year of college. But they feel good if Dampierre goes pro next year that Ficklin can step in. My favorite Utah fact that I know I've said on the pod before is they have not, and I bring this up because Morgan Scalley brings it up all the time. They have not developed an NFL draft pick at quarterback since Alex Smith. And he said, basically said to me, he thinks about that every day at Big 12 Media Days and how that happens. They need that position to unlock them as Big 12 contenders. They certainly found someone in Dampierre who is a cut above what they've had. He's a little small, so I don't know if he'll be a draft pick, but there is going to be a premium put on offensive skill that maybe hasn't been there. Final Utah note, since I gave you a BYU sleeper, Kelvin Obot, freshman left tackle, is going to be one of those guys who plays right away and is the latest in the line of elite Utah tackles. Both tackles were drafted last year. I can't tell you he's going to start from day one at left tackle, but they really feel like he is a program linchpin for years to come.
Yeah, I know the expectation is that offensive line is not going to take a step back at all with Whittingham gone. Like, this is still going to be the program's identity, is going to be in those trenches, and so you expect a lot. Here's what I'm going to say about Utah. Pete just laid out a lot of it. And anybody else that's in this kind of mix, and that includes Houston or Arizona or TCU or anybody else, it's the consistency. What can you do week in, week out to get to that Big 12 title game? Because the margin, this is where we're in the, what was it, wide, not deep a bit. Mm-hmm. You can look at this schedule and say, hey, look, they get Houston at home at night. They get BYU at home. Absolutely, they could be 12-0. Right? Arkansas is not that good. There's some road trips, but they could be 12-0. They could be 7-5. You could win the games you might not win, and then lose the next. There's too many games in this. Everybody's got a chance, but can you be consistent? Or are we going to end up with a lot of 8-4 teams in this league? Because there's not really an off. The bottom isn't terrible, and there's a lot of teams that are tricky. So yeah, hey, we beat Houston at home, but then we go to Cincinnati next week and lose. So you just don't know where it is. Can you be consistent? And if it's Utah, if it's Houston, if it's Arizona, if it's again, BYU may have a little bit more talent, but any of these teams in the middle, I think it's just going to be how mentally tough, focused, and how good of a job has this team done coming together to do it week in, week out.
I think we've become conditioned to expect things from Utah. There are so many changes. Not only, Pete mentioned, Obot, who is a highly regarded guy. They got a portal tackle who is an FCS national champion, Cedric Jefferson from Montana State. So they replaced some guys, but all of their linemen are gone. All of them. Our offensive line coach is gone. This is a year of change for Utah. I do look at the schedule. I think they ought to start 6-0. But to Dan's point, you stumble on one of those, and then the way that thing at the end, the BYU game at home is huge. Then you go at Arizona, at TCU, then, come back home for West Virginia, who, dealing with Rich Rodriguez. And speaking of 178 new players, they got a lot of new players too. The end of the season, how well they develop in that first half when they should make a lot of hay in the first half of the season will be paramount for them, to see just how good they can be and what they can accomplish. If you look at the Big 12 and try to say, okay, how does it stack up with the quote unquote power conferences? You look at the playoff the last 2 years. The first year of the 12-team playoff, Arizona State should have, could have, however you want to phrase it, beat Texas, should have beaten Texas, could have beaten Texas. Last year, Texas Tech appeared to be non-competitive with Oregon. They were offensively. They actually played pretty good defense on them for a while, but then, it got to be too much when it was apparent they weren't going to score. So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and one of the team that came closest in the Big 12 to winning a playoff game in this new era was Arizona State. And Arizona State has probably gotten more attention in the offseason for who left with Sam Leavitt as opposed to what they have coming back and what Kenny Dillingham has built and tried to build there. As you look at Arizona State right now, I still think they've got Cutter Boley at quarterback from Kentucky. Mikey Keene came over, who's been all over the place, I think most recently at Michigan. You hear a lot from Kenny after camp and talking. Do you view Arizona State, just a couple of years removed from a playoff appearance and a near playoff win, Pete, as a threat or a sleeper in the league?
Well, I believe they're still a threat, Rece, and my contention that they're a threat starts at the receiver position. They have the best wide receiver room in the Big 12. Reed Harris came from Boston College. He's from Montana originally. That is not a typical triangle. Sometimes you go from like New Jersey to BC to, and then you transfer to, I don't know, UMass or something, right? Like you don't usually go from Montana to Boston to Tempe. But Reed Harris, 673 yards last year, averaged 17.3 yards a catch. He's an NFL prospect. He's from Great Falls. He had 5 touchdowns. That was not exactly a dynamic pass game he played in last year at BC. He's excellent. Omarion Miller's a French first-round pick, the receiver transfer who came from Colorado. They've had some success with Colorado transfers, unlocking them there, and then Raiden Bynes-Bright from Washington. Hines Ward is, he's not Brian Hartline, but he is one of the best receiver coaches that we've seen in college football the last 5 years. He has got guys ready and got guys out of there. And in a really, really, he's a special connector. He's one of the energy plugs in that program, the former Steelers receiver. I think a lot of people don't even realize Hines Ward is coaching college football. And he's quietly done excellent work there. Cutter Boley, obviously the favorite to go there. Mikey Keene Mikey Keene is an awesome backup quarterback.
Awesome guy to have on your roster.
That is great roster management. You bring a guy who started that many games at Fresno, UCF. He was at Michigan. He's probably 28. I'm joking, but he's an older he's an older guy. The intriguing guy in that quarterback room, and I'm not saying he's going to jump in and play this year, is Jake Fett. He's a true freshman from El Paso. Kenny Dillingham was wildly high on his ceiling, talking to us at Big 12 Media Days. And again, that doesn't translate right away, but they feel like they have the quarterback of the future already there. He's kind of guy they got out of El Paso. All the big brands came in and they fought him off. They fought him off at the end. So this program to me feels like it's in very good shape right now. The leap they took the playoff year was one of the most remarkable leaps I've seen. And Kenny Dillingham's kind of figured out this modern college football thing. And I don't think they'll be a playoff team this year, but I do think they will be they'll be a factor because they will be one of the more dynamic offensive teams in the league. And look, we'll find out week 2 at Texas A&M, right? like just, what their mettle is. And if they go there and pull an upset, Texas A&M's not infallible, or they go there and show well, that's a really good bellwether for the depth of the Big 12 this year. Yeah. That's a really important game for the league for them to show well.
Dan, their schedule is brutal. The non-conference game at A&M, they're at Texas Tech, and I mean brutal in terms of home and away. They're at BYU, and they're at Arizona, who I also think is going to be good, and obviously that's a rivalry game. So in addition to like rebuilding the entire offensive line, new quarterback, all this stuff, the schedule is really difficult as well, Dan.
They throw a game with Kansas in Wembley as well.
That's right.
And that's Saturday the 19th of September. So it's one thing to do it right. We're gonna have TCU and North Carolina opener, right? You got plenty of time to get over there and get acclimated. They're coming right off of at Texas A&M, and they've got to get to play Kansas Saturday in London. At the same time, Kansas, I think they play Missouri the week before, maybe on a Friday night, I think that game is. But get one more day, but same thing. So we're throwing the mid-season European. I'm not a big fan of these European games, but mid-season, like that just seems like a lot of effort to play that game. I think, but whatever, that's where they're doing it. Wembley's a cool place to watch a football game. I've seen them. Great experience, but you're not getting that kind of, hey, let's show up for 5-6 days and, go pose for pictures with the crossing guard guy or whatever the hat.
Crossing guard guy.
Whatever that guy is. Guard the
Palace guard.
Palace guard, yeah.
Crossing guard, palace guard.
Palace guard guy, yeah. They don't smile. Yeah, that type. Big Ben. Look, it's Big Ben. London's a cool place, but
it is a cool place.
It is a cool place. But I'm not sure what these games are. But anyway, you're right. They have all that. Look at the one thing we didn't mention. The biggest victory of the off season is Kenny Dillingham still there, and Michigan wanted him. They were highly interested. Nobody really gets a job offer until they've said, "I'll take it." But if Kenny Dillingham wanted to be in Ann Arbor right now, pretty good chance Kenny Dillingham's in Ann Arbor, and he said no. And he said, I'm going to stay here. This is, it's famous. He's got a sister around the family in this neighborhood. They got all the Dillinghams, and he's from the Valley and Activate the Valley, and he's happy, and he's got a good job, and he's got his kids and all this stuff. But that is a huge statement for what he's building, what he believes, and what he can say to players and coaches about his commitment. When someone is saying, I'm going to stay here at Arizona State in the Big 12, I am not going to Michigan with all of Stephen Ross and Larry Ellison's wife's or whatever's money. That's a big statement. So as long as Dillingham's there, they've got a chance. They remember 2 years ago, they were picked 16th out of 16, and they ended up, playing Texas to the wire there. So who knows what he's got? But I have a lot of faith in this program. He's done a great job elevating the profile of not just himself, but this program. And I think it's cool that he wanted to stay and build something and say, hey, look, he has a great line. He's like, there's a lot of good jobs. I have a great job. Just because one maybe is better on this part, which maybe you got a better chance of winning a national title at Michigan than Arizona State. It's not as good maybe on this part. And so I thought that was really it was a mature answer for a young coach.
But, to your point, Dan, about not chasing the established booster, Kenny's not only trying to build the program at the school he loves in his hometown, his alma mater, he's also trying to find the next big mega booster, his version of Cody Campbell. I mean, the great quote, we live in Phoenix, Arizona. You're telling me there's not one person who can stroke a $20 million check right now? Somebody step up. I think he said he was going to make him the most famous person in the city if he did it.
Well, I'm going to say this. Is there not someone who can stroke a $20 million check to pay your favorite podcast? Favorite podcast host?
You would think.
We'll make you famous on this thing.
Yes, we will.
Right? Rece, you got to know somebody.
Dan can explain the economics of why that's a good investment.
I'll explain the economics of why that's an absolutely brilliant decision for my bank account.
I would then have to explain to them why I've said, if I were a booster, if I didn't do this for a living and were, that wealthy, I would not do this. I've talked to some guys who do it, and I'm like, God bless you. Good for you. I don't really understand why you do it.
Put it out on the 6 o'clock news. Like there's somebody just sitting around going, why not? The 20 mil sitting around here. Let's try to help the Arizona State football program.
Yeah, let's hit a couple more teams quickly. The first one we're going to see in the Big 12, Dan alluded to, is TCU. They're open up against North Carolina. They've got Jaden Craig at quarterback, who is a Harvard transfer, and as Pete well knows, I have a very soft spot in my heart for outstanding Ivy League athletes who transfer to the Power Four, and enjoy seeing them have success. And perhaps he will be the next one as TCU opens against North Carolina. I think, there are some changes at TCU, Pete, but I think TCU has an opportunity also to be a ranked team, to be a team that can make noise in the Big 12. As you look at their schedule, they get BYU at their place. They do have to go to Arizona. They have to go to Texas Tech at the end of the season. But, if Craig is what is advertised, they're replacing their offensive coordinator when Kendall Briles left for South Carolina. But I think there's a lot to like about TCU also.
Rece, absolutely. We'll start at the quarterback position. Jaden Craig, the Harvard transfer. There's a lot of buzz about him this spring going in. If he had left Harvard after last season, because he did 4 years there, graduated. I think he had family who went to Harvard. He's a North Jersey kid. He would have been picked in this NFL draft. Can I tell you, he would have been picked 100th or 150, but third round was probably where you start the conversation with Jaden Craig. It was a terrible quarterback draft, so who knows if he could have caught some buzz. But they feel every bit of somebody who could end up, that Jaden Craig has shown them he could end up being a top 100 pick in the upcoming NFL draft at TCU. It's going to be a radically different TCU team from how they're organized and how they look. They made a hard shift on offense, hiring Gordy Samus as their offensive coordinator. Obviously, Kendall Briles had been there for a long time. That family's offense was one of tempo, air raid, etc. Gordy Samus came from UConn. They were a power run team. Gordy's an old O-lineman, so the identity kind of follows that lead. So they're going to evolve here into more of a bruising ground game type team, which will be really interesting to see in the Big 12. They're really optimistic about their defense at TCU. They feel like it's one of the best ones that they've had here, period. So they are a quintessential sleeper. There's some really nice pieces in place for them. Jeremy Payne's a really solid Big 12 running back. And there was definitely a sense of overlook us, go right ahead and see. And look, the world will be watching noon from Dublin on week 0. And the one thing we've learned, to dovetail Dan's comments about the London game, the team who loses that week 0 game, their seasons just tend to go right into the spiral. Now, if it's North Carolina, they have Notre Dame coming to town. They go to Clemson, I believe, and that's all by October 3rd. So there is a recipe for that. But if TCU wins that game, it could springboard it, and Jaden Craig can kind of announce himself. They could be set up to have a nice season.
Let me touch on 2 QBs real quick, Rece. In Arizona, we've mentioned but not really mentioned, but Noah Fafita is a fantastic player and gives them. We say this about every conference. There's just so many good quarterbacks right now in college football, but he's one of them who does not get the attention. And Brent Brennan's program does not get the attention. 9-4 last year, 6-3 in the league. They got a really good offensive line to protect Fafita. There's a ton of offense that could be possible, and there's all sorts of chances to make a lot of noise. Their problems, their schedule, Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, and Houston all on it. So they're getting all of the contenders in the league, and that can either make you or break you or put you in the middle. But Arizona is going to be a factor in this league. And then one other is I'm really interested to see what DJ Lagway does at Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
This is a kid who, when he was at Florida, showed moments when you said could be one of the best quarterbacks in America. There were other moments where you said this is not anywhere near the propensity for turnovers happened. But it was a chaotic situation at Florida. There was a ton put on him. And, you get to Baylor, you're a little out of the spotlight, not a lot expected this season. What is DJ He's a really interesting addition And how well Baylor does or doesn't do is one story. Another is just how good is DJ Lagway when he can maybe get his feet under him and just play some football.
I think Arizona is going to be really good. Extraordinarily well coached, veteran coaching staff. Brent Brennan's been terrific. Fafita, I think since Tetairoa McMillan left, people, to your point, Dan, and is rightly so, they've sort of forgotten about Fafita. Fafita was instrumental in getting Tetairoa McMillan the attention he got in college as one of the best receivers in the country, and now playing in the NFL with the Panthers. So I think Arizona's got a chance. Schedule's going to be tough. I think they've got a chance to move into that second tier. Let's hit a few of these teams. Quick hitter, Pete. You love Oklahoma State. How much do you love them?
I love him a lot. I want to read this quote from Fafita. I was lucky to spend some time with him when we were in Tucson. He said, "I don't want to just be the guy that stayed. I want to be the guy that won. We've never had an outright conference title, at least in a power conference in Arizona history, so why not us? God brought me back. That's what I came back for. I didn't come back for a 10-win season. I came back for it all." Now, that's a good quote. I can see Dan nodding his head as someone who has a good ear for headline-grabbing quotes. So, good on Noah Fafita. Really, really easy, really easy guy to root for. Who did you just ask me about?
No, I did. Well, okay, I'm going to go from Noah Fafita in a great quote. Is Drew Mestamaker, is he there for a 10-win season, or is he there for a 7-win season, or is he there?
So I have a sonnet written about Drew Mestamaker in iambic pentameter. So because he is my man crush for the
play the romance power ballad, please.
Yes,
yeah. Olivia Rodrigo on, please.
I'll write a Journey song.
The heart wants what it wants. The heart wants what it wants. And Pete.
And forever yours, faithfully. Go ahead,
so Drew Mestamaker is the best story in college football. His life is a Disney movie. He did not start after his freshman year in high school when he started for the B team. He backed up one of the coach's kids who's now back up at Wisconsin, and he got a walk-on through happenstance in a quarterback trainer. He got a walk-on spot at North Texas. Credit Eric Morris. He'd tell you it's somewhat blind luck. And Drew Mestamaker has emerged not only as the single leading passer in all of college football at North Texas last year, but the most fascinating NFL draft prospect there is amongst this gilded class of quarterbacks. There's Arch Manning, there's bigger names. Nobody has the backstory like Drew Mestamaker. He's barely ever played the position. In the last 10 years, he's started, whatever games he would have played at North Texas last year, 13, maybe 14 games that they played in the conference title. So, and then he had played in the bowl game the year before. So these guys started 15 games the last 7 years or so. And the NFL, all eyes are on him. Saw him at Manning Academy. Big, strong kid, good looking. I am a huge fan of what he can become. Oklahoma State is a compelling experiment of pulling a team up, right? Eric Morris brought his most productive receivers, brought most productive tailback, and these are guys who did a lot. He is one of the most accomplished quarterback tutors, whisperers there is. So I am fascinated by Drew Mestamaker. He is my 2026 man crush. Maybe we get that sponsored, Dan.
20 million.
And I am all in on what he can do.
Yeah, Pete's got Oklahoma State is a Disney movie per Pete. That armadillo got it like Bambi's mom. I would say that's very out of nowhere. Guy was out 2:30 in the morning.
Pete, Pete, let me ask Dan this question. Dan?
Yes.
Coach Prime era at Colorado. What's next? How long does it last? Do they turn it around?
Well, this is going to be interesting. First, he's healthy. He says he's healthy, which is the big thing. Last year, he was not healthy. And he hasn't been healthy. At different times, he's not been healthy. But he was dealing with cancer last year. So we're glad that has passed him. And you wonder how much impact that had on things. Yeah. And I don't want to minimize that variable here and just say, look, the program's taking this big. Well, it's going to take a step back when you're in that situation. How long this lasts, I think, is up to Coach Prime and what he wants to do going forward. The momentum of the program that they had is not there anymore. Travis Hunter isn't coming back, and he hasn't done a great job of finding a parade of other Travis Hunters that just want to come and play for Deion Sanders. Can he still? I think he can. Will he? That's really going to be a matter of it. They're recruiting more high school players now, which is interesting, than they did when he was really like, I don't need them, which was a high wire act of a strategy, and it worked for a little while, but not yet. They do have Julian Lewis, who came in to follow Shedeur Sanders, and he's a high end player there. They've got some high end talent around there, but do they have the depth of this program, and can he write it? It's not trending well, 3-9. I don't know how many they win this year, but I think I'm going to give them a pass due to the health situation and how much Coach Prime wants to make this work in the next 3 to 4 years. If he doesn't, I don't know how long it lasts. It'll be interesting. How long does he want to do this?
I viewed him. I think he is a much more old school, tougher guy than people think on the outside. I think he's a good coach. I've said this. I do. I mean, ultimately, I know you are what your record says you are. I think he is elevated. He's elevated Colorado no matter what happens from this point forward. But with Juju Lewis coming back, they've got Danny Scudero in there. They got a running back from Alabama who was highly touted, who just never quite found playing time there. And Richard Young got a defensive back from Indiana. In addition to the high school guys that they're recruiting, a lot's going to be unveiled when they play Georgia Tech. And remember, Georgia Tech had a really good year last year. Georgia Tech had to pull it out of the fire against Colorado in the waning moments. That was in Boulder. It's a road game. They've got Texas Tech. They're at Arizona State. They've got Houston. So it's daunting for them. And they lost Jordan Seaton to the transfer portal to LSU. Again, massive roster turnover. And I don't expect them to go to a bowl game this year, but I don't think that this has been some type of massive failure as an experiment or as a chance at Deion Sanders kind of using his celebrity to build awareness and build attraction to his program. I mean, they had one really good year with Shedeur and Travis Hunter, and he seems to really be, he's invested in trying to impact his players the best way he possibly can, both on and off the field. But at some point, you've got to continue the production, and I think they'll be competitive. I'll be surprised if they get to a bowl game this year, and I think that would constitute a really, really good season for them. What about Rich Rod? I think Rich Rod's sneaking around the chicken coop there. They've, again, more heavy turnover in the portal. They brought in some high-profile guys. Michael Hawkins Jr., at quarterbacks coming in to be part of that battle. Brought Scotty Fox back. I think that 30-some-odd players returning is all. They got Cam Cook from Rich Rod's previous stop at Jacksonville State. Give me a quick line on what to expect from the Mountaineers, Pete.
I think the identity of West Virginia starts to show up a little bit under Rich Rod. We saw it a little bit late last season when they beat when they beat Houston. Look, he told me he's brought in more than 150 players in his 2 years. He joked about like learning their names. This is a distinctly better roster. He has not named Michael Hawkins Jr. the quarterback yet, but there's a very good chance that Michael Hawkins ends up as the quarterback there. He's a former Oklahoma backup. He started a game or two when he was when he was there. The key player for them is Prince Strahan, the receiver from USC, who has not been able to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, Cam Cook can run the ball. Rich Rod's always going to find a way to move the ball, right? So I think if they have better pieces this year, I'd be stunned if they step backwards. I think they push forward.
Okay, we've laid out the Big 12 for you. We think it's Texas Tech. We think it's BYU, a few other sleepers underneath that can challenge them. But we want to mention everybody. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you one-liners on our way out and try to make sure that we hit a little bit of everybody. Iowa State, completely new team. Jimmy Rogers, head coach, national championship on his resume. Arkansas State, Jalen Rayner at quarterback to replace Rocco Beck. Probably going to be a very long season in Ames, but you're in pretty good hands with Jimmy Rogers long term. UCF, what do you think about that? Alonzo Barnett III took James Madison to the playoffs. Now he'll try to take UCF to a winning season. Cincinnati, the Brendan Sorsby drama is over. Another elevated level quarterback coming in with J.C. French from Georgia Southern. He's thrown for nearly 6,000 yards in his career, 37 touchdowns. Satterfield usually finds a way to move the ball too. Kansas, Andy Kotelnicki is back as the co-offensive coordinator with Lance Leipold, who is a tremendous coach. Open competition to replace Jalen Daniels. Isaiah Marshall's a guy that they have believed in. Cole Ballard's a polished passer there. Jayhawks will get somebody before the year is over. We touched Baylor briefly because of DJ Lagway. This could be a huge year for Dave Aranda. One game under 500 in his 7 years as the head coach, going into his 7th year as the head coach of the Bears. And then there's new coach Colin Klein at Kansas State. Kansas State legend trying to take over there. He's brought in some guys through the portal, some guys that came with them from Texas A&M. But I believe in the Kansas State defense. Why do I believe in the Kansas State defense? Well, defensive coordinator, I think defensive coordinator Jordan Peterson will have the defense standing up straight with their shoulders back. They will stop if they encounter a cat along the road. They'll remember that life is suffering, and there are 12 rules for defense. You voluntarily confront the chaos of life. That is what makes you strong. That's what will make the Kansas State defense strong. So, what do you think about that? And so that's something you can think of maybe for the rest of your life. If you got that reference, I salute you. You and I are on the same wavelength. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Download this wherever you prefer to get your podcast, or subscribe so you never miss a single episode. And somewhere in your podcast listening, the College Game Day podcast is part of your Maps of Meaning.